What up, you guys? Rasatiar here in Singapore. Thank you so much for joining me back here on the Night Owl podcast. I really, really love you guys. I really appreciate the fact that you keep coming back. And whether you've heard every one of the podcast episodes in succession, or if you've just been tuning in randomly on Spotify or on YouTube or whatever, either way, I'm very, very grateful. I really appreciate the time you take to listen. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about triggers and trauma today, mostly because I feel like there is a big misconception about what it is to have a trigger and how to deal with it and what it means for your trauma and like what exactly you're supposed to do. Right now, I have a lot of people who are self-diagnosed. They know the word trigger, they know the word childhood trauma, they know these words and buzzwords and terminologies because they've been looking everything up on online. I know a lot of the millennial crowd, I can't even speak. The millennial crowd has been doing a lot of research. They're very, very interested in psychology. Everyone knows what a narcissist is. And a lot of times they figure that somebody who's controlling them, which everybody controls everybody, by the way, a lot of people that are controlling them are immediately narcissists. But I don't think they understand exactly what they're saying. So let me start all the way at the beginning with a trigger and trauma. A trauma usually is an experience that you had that had really negative side effects, as in you did not enjoy the experience at all. It changed the way you saw yourself or it changed the way you saw the world around you. Okay, if it was something very, very big like a rape or sexual abuse, chances are you stopped trusting people around you because you didn't know what they wanted from you, so you figured it's better to just stay away, right? Let's go with that example for now so I can finish all the way to the end with this whole trauma trigger kind of example, right? A lot of times in my life, because I have been sexually abused by someone who's very, very close to me at a very, very young age. Now, at the time when it happened, I think I remember questioning like why it was happening and what the hell was going on, what it was supposed to mean. And I did my best to avoid that person, but it was inevitable. We lived in the same house. Eventually, what would happen is, from my limited understanding, I think I blocked the whole thing out and I kind of moved on from that place because questioning it was not getting me anywhere and I was too embarrassed and too afraid to ask anyone what it all meant. Least of all the person that was perpetrating, and I didn't feel like I was close enough to my mom where I could ask her. Okay? So I just left it be, I ignored everything, and I kind of focused on the rest of my life instead. I blocked it out. That is one way of coping with a trauma, something that was very, very big, that changed your viewpoint of the world around you or your view of who you are and your worth in this life. Okay? Years later, when I was about 16 and I discovered boys and I really wanted attention because I was super bullied and super awkward and just like no one liked me. Okay? It's all good. But I was about 16 years old and I finally had somebody who seemed like he was interested in my presence. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And so, of course, I fell head over heels or whatever I thought that was into an obsession and started following him around and was trying to spend more and more time with him because I felt important. I was getting attention, y'all. Come on, I wanted attention. So I followed him around like one of those sad ass puppy dogs. And it was a situation where we went to school together. And when we went to school, I was not supposed to know him, but on the bus ride to and from, oh, we were cool. And we usually sat in the back of the bus so no one else could see what was going on, right? It wasn't bad, y'all. It was like heavy petting and like whispers in my ears and stupid shit like that. But I allowed him to touch me in ways that no one else had ever gotten that close before. So I was opening up myself. I was being a little bit more bold than I'd ever been before because obviously up until that point I barely spoke 3 words to people because no one actually wanted to hear anything I had to say. So I was truly and madly obsessed and head over heels infatuated, and I wanted to spend more time with this person. But it wasn't until the first rejection of me that suddenly all of those memories that I had kind of blocked out came flooding back. This physical, sexual, romantic, I don't know what the hybrid word for that would be, encounter with this boy triggered me to remember all of the things that happened before, and that restarted some of the things that I had been telling myself about my place in the world, what the world was about, how I saw the world back then when I was about 8. In that regard, I'm trying to explain to you, a trigger is like a red flag that points you to a trauma that is yet to be healed. Because I blocked it out, I did not heal that trauma. I did not face it head on. I didn't talk to the perpetrator. I didn't ask for outside help. I did not get any support. No one healed my worldview from that trauma when I was 8. So when it happened again, a similar situation happened again when I was 16, and it ended up in a rejection, right? All that shit came flooding back, and I had to question myself all over again. So this is my definition of what a trigger is for a trauma. A trauma is something big that happened that changed your worldview or your self-view. And a trigger is a red flag kind of experience that either mimics the original trauma or points yourself back at, hey, you haven't healed this yet because obviously they said something that really bothers you. I get the impression that most people don't realize that. Most of the conversations I have with my clients, right, they will talk to me about the triggers in their life. I have a couple of clients who have been diagnosed by a medical professional that said that they are depressed and have anxiety disorder, like whatever the happens to be the diagnosis for them, right? They say, they lead off with, hey, I have this, this, and this. Okay, got it. It's like you have brown hair, blue eyes, and long toenails. I don't know. But they say it proudly, like, this is my diagnosis. Okay, I understand. I'm going to take that into account. I'm not dismissing it. I'm going to take it into account. But let me talk to you first and see what else is going on. And then they will say, because I have this and this and this, these are my triggers. But in their mind, they have decided that these triggers are taboo talking points in any relationship. Which means I am not allowed to broach that subject or they're going to get upset and they're going to block me out. That's their defense mechanism. I'm not going to say it's wrong because that's what they've always done. But what I'm saying is, when you do that, do you heal the problem or do you avoid it some more? So it can build up some more and you keep wondering why this is still a problem. That's my problem right now. This is the thing I'm fighting the hardest against at the moment. To change the stigma of what it is to have a trauma and what it means to have triggers. In a relationship, the couples are supposed to speak to each other. I have a couple of people right now that have explained to their partners that these are my triggers. I don't like these things. It upsets me when you yell. It upsets me when you threaten your life. I get it. But what they're not saying is, okay, so if I were to do that, what are you thinking? What does it mean to you? I want to understand what it's saying to you and where it's coming from and why it bothers you so much, so I can help you get to a place where it no longer bothers you to the point of disruption of your life. As in, everything comes to a screeching halt and nothing else matters except for the fact that I screwed up and I upset you, and that's it. We're not going to talk about why you're upset, but we're going to talk about the fact that you're upset and I did it willingly or maliciously or whatever. That's the part that I'm trying to fix. That's the part that I'm trying to break through. I've had a couple of people say, don't do this, it's a trigger for me. Okay, I know better, but until you know better, I've got to kind of adhere to what your expectations are. My general, what is that word I'm looking for? It's in my nature to reach out and ask people how they are, especially if I'm worried about them. If I care about them, I'm going to call you. I'm going to message you at least. And it's not to bombard you with a bunch of messages. It's not to harass you into some kind of a reaction. It's who I am. I care. I want to show you that I care. And if I can't physically be there to run into you at a certain point in time because our schedules don't line up like that, we don't go to school together or something, I want to at least reach out and say, hey, you crossed my mind. How are you? Now, whether you respond or not, that's your bag. But when you say it triggers you for me to call you, I kind of have no choice but to listen because I don't want to upset you to the point that, your meds make you do something crazy. But I do want to respect who you are and what you're going through. And eventually, as you slowly open up to me, we'll work on that shit. But for now, I kind of have to go with what you've said. It's breaking through that expectation that you will not touch this subject because it's a sore point, which means there's some things I need to accept about myself that I'm not ready to yet. So I'm just going to avoid the whole black damn thing and throw it into a black hole and hope it disappears. But guess what? It still shapes your life. It still bothers you. When it comes to sexual assault or anything to do with sex, for me personally, I'm going to tell you very honestly, I am afraid that all people will want from me is sex. I am afraid that I'm too much everything else for them to take anything but sex. And I am afraid that if I don't offer sex, I won't get any kind of intimacy or any kind of friendship or any kind of communication at all whatsoever because that's all I'm worth. That is something I'm fighting on a regular basis. I love that I can have intellectual conversations with people. I am flattered when people find me attractive. But I also know that the millennium set and this generation of people aren't looking for long-term relationships. They want the intimacy. They want, the feeling of, hey, I belong to someone, someone belongs to me. We're in this together. We're going to fight together side by side. We got this. I got a partner in crime. But they don't want to put in the effort. They don't want to actually, do what it takes to build a strong foundation. I know people who have been friends for years. I mean, they grew up together, went to elementary school, primary school, middle school, whatever, all the schools. They've grown up together. And as adults, the first sign of a disagreement all of a sudden, and they block each other and stop talking to each other. What the hell kind of friendship is it? That's not my definition of friendship. My definition of friendship is somebody who I have been through the dirt with. I mean, both our armor is dented and mangled. Both of us have been in knockdown, drag-out fights with each other and fought by each other's side. And because we've gotten through those moments and found a way to calm our asses down and sit down and talk about the issue at hand, you are my friend. The rest of y'all are acquaintances. Well, guess what? My brother is my friend. No one else comes close. Because no one else is willing to be wrong in my eyes, and no one else is willing to tell me I'm wrong in their eyes and sit down and have a damn conversation. Why? Because it's a trigger and we'd rather avoid all that shit, right? So how do you build the intimacy? Yeah, okay, sex. Easy answer, sex. Why? Because your skins are touching and you can look into each other's eyes and say all those sweet nothings in the moment or whatever. But guess what? You undo all of that when you ghost right after. You undo all of that when you never hear from them again until they need something else. I have seen it happen over and over again. And then people, in the meantime, in that silence, make up the answers to whatever happened. They make up the story for why it happened the way it did. Well, obviously the other person has to be the bad guy. It couldn't possibly be me. And they have to be narcissistic, and they have to be abusive, and they have to be, this one-track mind person that doesn't want anything else from me, because obviously I'm not worth any more than that. But why is it we're not willing to face the fact that maybe they disappear because I haven't set the expectation that I kind of want you to stick around. I kind of want to talk about it. I kind of want to get to know you better. Maybe we haven't set the boundary saying, you know what? You want these draws? Get to know me first. And be ready for the fact that they may bolt then. But isn't that better than bolting after sex? Isn't it a little more confusing? Are there so many more emotions to kind of figure out at that point? I used to think this, okay? I used to have this theory about men. I used to have this theory that, if they showed interest in me, I would be myself. I would be a fucking divine feminine, and I would love them to pieces. And I'm not talking about like overwhelm them and like smother them with, I'm talking about I will love you. I will love you to the best of my ability, to the best of the ability that you allow me to show you, right? I'm going to love you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure you know you are loved and supported and you are seen. And generally, that's what they want. And generally, when it comes that easy, they get scared, turn tail, and flee. So my theory for a long time was give a fool exactly what he asks for and watch him fuck it up. But that also means that I'm not healing. It also means that I'm allowing someone to walk away without holding them accountable, which is still not intimacy. It's still not opening up and being vulnerable enough to tell them, hey, you hurt me when you do this. Why do you do it? Is it something that I did? Is it something that I can help you fix? Is it something that we can talk about so I can help understand better what's going on for you so I can be more effective for us? We don't have those conversations though. So I'm telling you, when I hear people talk about traumas and triggers and all this shit, I already know what they're saying because I know what their connotation is, but I also know that they're way off target when it comes to actually healing. The point of a trigger is to show you where you're not healed, is to show you that you're avoiding talking about something that's really, really crucial to your worldview and your self-confidence. And if you can't open up and talk to it, you're going to be doomed to repeat the same cycle over and over. I think it's really cool that I came across Lover of the Moon. She's a really great account that I love to follow. And she has some really great content. And today's post, let me see here. I know it is. Okay. Today's post was about the filter of our experience is how we experience life most of the time. And through our own projections, when someone reminds us of an unhealed experience, we get triggered. And often it's an unconscious thing. People in situations can trigger our mirrors to reflect back to us what we believe to be true about life, the universe, and ourselves. And mirrors point to our shadows and our light. Now, what she means by mirrors is a lot of times somebody will treat you the way you've treated somebody else. They're mirroring your energy back to you. And you know what? A lot of times you don't get along with those people. Why? Because they piss you off. Why? Deep down inside, you know you're doing the same shit and you would not be okay with it if you were on the receiving end. But rather than talk about it, oh, that person triggered me. Get the fuck away. I don't want to talk about it. This is taboo. I see it right now. General elections are what, tomorrow? People doing smear campaigns and character assassinations? Why? Because that's their best argument they can come up with. Oh my God, the sad state of affairs. But what if they actually addressed the problem that was staring them right in the face instead of shooting down the person that pointed to it, the trigger? The problem will still exist. If you don't face it, the fear is still there. The problem still looms. It still remains unhealed, which means if you don't get to a place where you can put a scab over it, it's going to be raw, open, and oozing until it festers and boils over and you have no choice but to go through a divine storm and figure out what the fuck is going on. So I'm telling you guys, think about what I'm saying. Yes, people have been through trauma. Anything in your life that was big enough to change your worldview or how you see yourself and your worth is a big trauma. Big T, little t, I don't care. It's a big trauma to you because it changed the way you behaved in the world. Anything that triggers you, as in reminds you of something that hurts still, is not something you should be running away from to avoid the rest of your life, but something you should be facing head on so you can get it the hell over with and heal. So guess what? There are no more triggers that upset you. There are no more things that can disrupt your life to the point that you don't know how to function again. I hope this makes sense. If you have any other questions, please drop them down in the comments below. I want to know. I want to see how I can help you. But in the meantime, consider what I've said. The trigger points to the trauma. The trigger upsets you because it's not healed yet. Stop the cycle, face it, and heal. It's not easy, I guarantee it. But you know where to find me if you want some hand holding and some help. All right? I love you guys. Bye.